You are listening to the Adapt Performance podcast, where we aim to make elite level strength and conditioning accessible to everybody. I'm your host, Jordan Webster, and let's get into the episode. Yes, guys, what is going on? Welcome back to another episode of the Adapt Performance podcast, and we are going to be chatting through a little bit of a brain hack in a lot of ways, but it's going to be around the concept of inversion or inverted thinking, and just a little bit of a thought process to take you on to decide whether you are putting energy in the right places to solve your particular problem. Okay, and so the guy who created inversion thinking or kind of popularized it was a guy called Carl Jacobi, apparently. So he's old, he probably has been dead for hundreds and hundreds of years. But I think the other person who's kind of popularized it and gets kind of referenced as the creator of it is Einstein, obviously a smart bloke. So if it's good enough for somebody like that, I think we can consider it, particularly around performance and when we're trying to think slightly outside of the box. And just give you some context on how I come across the topic of inversion or inverted thinking. I heard it on a podcast and I was like, right, let's do it. And I think that's super important. If you're listening to me right now, don't just listen. That's great. You're gonna absorb this information for about 3 minutes, and then you'll probably never think about it again. So do try and implement this if you find it useful, and just see where it kind of takes you. So yeah, I heard it on a podcast and I was like, right, let's do it. Me and the other Adapt coach, Joe, we have a meeting every single Tuesday. You can spend about an hour on Zoom just basically going through all of our current athletes. Okay, what do we need to do to improve what they're doing? We go through programming, we go through, performance planning, we go through resources. How can we make Adapt better? All that. We do it every single week. Okay, and I think that's really important from a staff standpoint, just to make sure we're supporting the athletes as best as possible. And we decided, let's do some inversion. Let's think about this. Let's change our mindset away from how can we make our service better? How can we get better results for our athletes? Because when you just obsess over that question, sometimes you miss things. Okay, and apparently, humans are hardwired to always spot the bad in things. So if we change the question to being bad, we're going to be able to highlight more things. And you know what, it worked. And so the question we kind of asked ourselves was, how do we make sure our athletes fail? Okay, with Adapt. And some of the thoughts we were having was awesome. It's like, okay, we need to make sure we never communicate. We need to make sure we never just speak to each other. Okay, cool. That's highlighted something. That's obviously really important to avoid failure. So communication and touch points and regular occurrences of goal setting and just making sure that we're on the same page is important. Okay, cool. How else do we make sure that our athletes fail? Okay, well, training wise, we need to make sure they're super rigid. I feel like the more rigid you can make a program, the easier it's going to be to fail. Because if you're not giving athletes autonomy and the tools to be able to change programs, or at least giving them suggestions on, okay, if you need to miss a day, you can do this. And at the start, you're going to teach them through that process. But long term, you want to make sure that they've got the potential to be flexible with their program in a very reactive universe that we're in. Okay, so that was one thing we came up with. Rigid programs are going to help you fail. So let's not do rigid programs, or at least let's build in some education that allows people to make good decisions. How else? Let's make programs really boring. Okay, not very engaging. Sick. Cool. We can do that. Let's make sure that people's technique is shit. Okay, cool. We could do that, right? So then you start thinking, well, how do I make people's technique better? Well, we'll make sure that our video tutorials are on point. Okay, cool. We'll do that. We're going to make sure that when people send over videos, we give them good feedback on what they can do better, or, if they're smashing it, sick, we can do that. What else? Let's make sure when we send it over on the app that we have clear instructions on, okay, how much they're going to rest between sets, what intensity they are hitting, and general notes around how we want them to treat that exercise. Perfect. So it just starts unlocking some other things that you might not have actually thought about. And I'm not saying that inverted thinking is going to be your first step in solving a problem. However, we've been doing this for a while now, and I think it's really kind of highlighted some key things that we need to invest some time in. So yeah, we chatted around, how do we make sure our athletes fail? Perfect. And, we got a whole list there of things that we've actually just turned into a to-do list. And now we're starting to create, we have another section of what we do, standard operating procedures. So we basically got a Word document that basically has everything. Okay, this is how you do this. This is how you do this. This is some of the things you need to think about if you're putting this together. So we're really trying to make sure that there is a certain amount of synchronicity in how we approach problem solving. So yeah, we put that into there. And the next thing we did from an inverted thinking standpoint is, because it's important to both of us, is how do we make sure that we hate adapt? How do we kill adapt? How do we make sure that, we're not doing this in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years? Okay. What is going on, guys? Quick break in today's episode for me to ask you for a favor. If you enjoy these episodes, please do share them with a friend, okay? We don't run any paid ads on this type of podcast, so it's all organic, okay? So the more you can share it with an individual or put it on social media, it really, really helps. So if you could do that for me, I'd massively appreciate it. And let's get back into the episode. And, some of the things you come up with when you start thinking about that is, okay, well, I need to make sure I really hate work. Okay, I want to make sure I don't enjoy it. I want to make sure it's got no boundaries. Okay, cool. I want to make sure, it doesn't pay me enough. Cool, I need to do that. And it starts unlocking different thought processes throughout that. So I would recommend give it a go. And here's a question for you to kind of get those creative juices flowing, and we'll work through it together. Knowing that you are probably an athlete or a coach. So how do we make sure that you fail at your performance-related goals? Let me just take a drink. How do we fail at your performance-related goals? Okay. And when I start thinking about that then, so if I take my performance-related goals at the moment, so I'm trying to rehab a little bit of a shoulder issue. Okay, so that's one thing. I'm trying to achieve my 2000 watts, 6-second peak power on a watt bike. And then the third one, which is kind of like a pretty constant, is like to look a little bit better, okay, and be a bit stronger. Okay, so I want to be a little bit leaner, build a little bit more muscle, and generally just feel, strong. 3 things. Let's tackle it, okay? How do I make sure that my shoulder injury is never rehabbed? Okay, cool. I'll keep doing daft shit. I'll keep fucking about, and I won't actually apply common sense when I decide what weight I'm going to use, what movements I'm going to do, and how I approach training load management. Okay, that'd be a good one if I really wanted to fuck my shoulder up. I wouldn't warm up properly. I wouldn't listen to my body. I'd sleep like shit. Yeah, I think that took it off. And also, just make sure you never do your rehab or consult Ollie, our physio, okay? That'd be perfect. Never do those things. Okay, well, how do I solve my injury? Reverse it, okay? Training load management, super important. Listen to your body. What are you feeling? Do your rehab consistently, how Ollie sets it, and feedback if something doesn't feel great, okay? You start thinking, okay, they're really important cornerstones if you want to achieve that thing. What was the second one? Watt bike, okay? Well, how do I get better? How do I make sure I never hit my watt bike challenge? Probably just stop doing it completely, just quit the goal. Okay, so that's one thing. And I very much resigned myself to the idea that this watt bike challenge is going to be a long game. And one of the easiest ways I can make sure I don't hit it is just stop. Okay, and don't get me wrong, I've thought about it probably a gazillion times. I've thought about it a lot. But I'm not going to do it because I want to win this thing. I'm trying to win this fucking stationary bike that I've got in my garage. But so how do I do it? I need to make sure that I do not work on technique, because that is going to be a big factor in me getting it. So don't even stress about that, okay? Don't even refer back to YouTube. Don't watch previous training videos. Don't speak to the coach who's helping me through this in terms of technique. Cool. Don't do any of those things. Stop strength training. We know that strength is going to be a really important factor when it comes to the watt bike challenge. And if we look at some of the track cyclists, one of the highest or a really high predictor of power output on a track bike is actually just thigh size and girth. Okay, so I need to make sure I get small legs. Okay, small, weak legs. Okay, reverse that. Big and strong as possible. Cool. Also, because that is not the only thing, we're going to start thinking about, okay, speed work. We know that I need to be attacking this from both ends of the force velocity curve. Super forceful stuff, super speedy stuff. I've actually changed my training slightly offside, changed my training a little bit more recently. I'm jumping less, okay? And I'm actually just doing more of my total speed work on the bike. So now I'm doing 2 regular sessions per week. They're both speed sessions at the moment, not really doing the kind of middle ground 6-second efforts where I'm stood up and I'm getting a really kind of standing start. I'm not doing that because my shoulder's a bit shit, as I just mentioned. But it's really allowing me to work on the deficit that I definitely have as an athlete, which is the speed side. Because I don't spend time on a bike, and generally speaking, I haven't really done it. I can jump decently well, But yeah, so I just need to make sure that I don't do the speed stuff, and it's not super engaging. I don't really love it. However, that's going to be an important part of it. The next bit, okay, what's my third goal? Looking a little bit better, body composition style things. Okay, so we know nutrition is going to be a big part of this. Okay, what's my bias as a human being is I have a sweet tooth. I love it. If I wanted to make sure I don't, put on too much excess body fat, have loads of desserts in the house, have load of biscuits in the house, because I know if I get them in, I need to eat them. I need to get them gone. Okay. Character defect or whatever it is. Like if I don't buy it, I won't eat it. So that is the solution there for me. Inverted thinking. That's how I'm going to make sure I don't put on body fat. I need to walk more. I need to exercise a little bit more. I need to make sure my protein consumption is good. So that's kind of how we're thinking about these things. That is how you can kill the goal. So short and sweet one for you there. I want you to think about it. What are you trying to achieve at the moment? Whether it's rehab, performance, career, all those things. How can you make sure that doesn't happen? Just spend a few minutes thinking about it, or even better, write it down. Because if you're anything like me and your brain's like a sieve, you'll think about it for 2 minutes. You'll come up with the best ideas in the world, and then burp, gone. Don't think about it ever again. All right. So inverted thinking. Give it a go. Before you go, we've got a conditioning guide. I mentioned it in the last podcast. If you want to get that, it is in the show notes below. Download it for free. Use it for forever. Lifetime access. All right, cool. Thank you very much for listening, guys. Okay, that is the end of today's episode, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed that. If you did, please do let us know and then share it with somebody who may find this episode interesting. Okay, see you next time. Cheers.